whole damn world lost its mind.
This is Oliver Anthony, and this is a full accounting of the reporting radio stations who've added his song Men North of Richmond as of August 21st. And I want you to study close because there's something next to his name that explains part of why you aren't hearing Oliver on the Bear or the Moose or Beaver or Thunder 104.5. Note that I didn't say played his song, I said reporting radio stations who've added it. That's a little bit technical, and I'm going to explain it better at the end of this video. 8 is really not a bad number for an artist that nobody had ever heard of before. You'll see he's just below Drew Baldridge, who's been around for a little bit but still is unproven, and he's above Tyler Childers, who's interestingly another Appalachia artist. Now, let's zoom out to see the full top 10 or so. Scotty McCreery nabbed 120 ads, which is just tremendous. But don't get mad because there's still hope for Oliver, but there's also a very good chance that radio stations will treat him like an amateur. I'm Billy Dukes, and I count 3 reasons for it. Tap subscribe if you appreciate original country music news and analysis, and at any time weigh in with a comment about this process, the song, or what it means to you, but please treat everyone fair and no shouting. I don't have to delete comments. I've never bought motor oil at Home Depot, but I'm really not against it. In fact, I can recall several times where I sort of stumbled around the store looking for it, only to leave disappointed. Home Depot doesn't sell motor oil, or at least they used to not sell it. Maybe they tucked it in somewhere in the lawn and garden section. I don't know. The point is, you can't buy a product from a store when the product is not on the store shelves, and Oliver Anthony has not put his product on shelves. It's a distribution issue. Let me explain. For a radio station to add Richmond into their computer, they have to rip the audio from Spotify or YouTube, and when you do that, you're ripping a lower quality song than what would be delivered on a CD or a formal record label official streaming service. I know, that's a really lame excuse, but it does matter. Think of it like watching a football game. The picture's really clear when you're there, and it's really good, but maybe less clear when you watch it at home on television. It's quite a bit worse when you watch the video your friend took of his television. With every generation, you lose quality, and that becomes noticeable when Richmond is played alongside any other song a radio station will play. This isn't my favorite word, but radio stations will only play a song serviced to them, and Richmond hasn't been serviced. Beyond that, the song has a curse word in it, so a programmer is going to have to figure that out. I mean, raise a hand if you want Bubba the Land Shark on 94.9 The Wolf editing your favorite songs. All this said, it's possible, but certainly extra work. This could push Richmond into something of a novelty song that only morning shows play. Reporting by Chris Willman at Variety notes that about 1/3 of country radio stations have played it. That's a little bit less than I expected. Is your favorite radio station playing it? Comment below. The second reason a radio station might stall on this song is silly and selfish and less true than it was a decade ago, but still kind of true. Radio likes to be the one to break an artist. That means they want the credit for being the first place you heard songs like Men North of Richmond, or before Oliver's song, Something in the Orange by Zach Bryant, Fancy Like by Walker Hayes. I mean, you could really go back to Sam Hunt even further if you want, and yeah, I know Fancy Like was a hit, eventually. The best example of this is Scotty McCreery, who got no love from radio stations outside of North Carolina about a decade ago. He was part of a new class of reality show winners that got their break on TV, and programmers began to resent this. After about 2006, this wasn't cool any longer. Now I gotta defend radio a little bit because there were some crap reality stars being pushed on programmers then. When a radio station adds a song, they make a commitment, and it turns out those artists' labels weren't as committed. Every single winner on The Voice after Danielle Bradbury has struggled for this very reason, and it's combined with what we've talked about before. It's kind of like trying to sell sneakers to Nike. Beyond this, there's no incentive. And I'm not talking about anything illegal here. I'm just saying that radio stations believe that they can't be punished for what they're not playing, and in large part, that's true. There is a limited number of slots on a playlist, so if it comes down to adding Oliver, or a great new song from a trusted artist that's spent years forming a relationship with your station, plus you're kind of friends with the record label guy, and, maybe he's got a show in town in a couple months, who are you going to choose? In 2023, that artist is Scotty McCreery, who, if you remember, nabbed 120 ads on August 21st. This is all human nature, and before you get too upset, ask yourself what you'd do if you had a cookie, say a fudge round, and your best friend's kid wanted it. But then, some other random kid wanted it as well. I mean, that random kid's gonna walk away hungry every single time. In this case, Oliver Anthony's gonna have to go find his own fudge rounds. I actually think politics are the reason that some radio stations are playing Richmond North of Richmond.
Overtime hours for bullshit pay.
Oliver says he's apolitical, but the fact is this song is appealing to conservatives more than liberals. I mean, it was a question on the first GOP debate. That's fine. The country audience isn't a monolith, but you can hit a pretty big slice by bending right. Radio programmers in large, more liberal areas like maybe Portland, Oregon, they may object to playing this song based on the message, so I'm including politics as a reason here, but if you need an example of why that won't matter too much, turn to Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town, which radio rallied around earlier this summer. A hesitant programmer may also be waiting to see that Anthony and his manager's story checks out. He's kind of an enigma, and nobody wants to have to pull a song or an artist once again because there's proof that he's a criminal or a racist or an abuser. I mean, to be clear, there's no evidence of any of that for Oliver or his manager, but why rush the process? There is some precedent here. When Lil Nas X released Old Town Road in 2019, country radio made a really big show of shunning it to the point that it kind of looked like racism. There was a lot to wrap minds around then, and the song sounded so different from any other song on the radio. The same is true about Richmond. It's a lot to push on people. Remember, the big difference between radio and streaming services is that with radio, you're pushing out new music, and with streaming services, fans are actively opting in. I dropped a link in the corner to my popular review of Richmond, but as you read, remember I was critical of Lil Nas X as well. I just like good music and certainly won't fault you if you disagree. One more thing before I close. I said I'd return to this topic before I split, but an ad is a radio station's commitment to play a song with regularity in any given week. I think you need to spin a song like 3 times in 7 days to automatically add a song, and there's a floor for the number of spins before it looks like you dropped the song. There's about 150 reporting radio stations, most in large markets like Chicago, Dallas, and Pittsburgh, and middle markets like Buffalo, New York, Kalamazoo, Toledo, etc. Whenever people talk about radio trends, they're talking about these 150 or so radio stations. So, if you're in small town Texas, it's possible your station's choices aren't registering. It's totally not fair and not accurate, but I guess they had to draw a line somewhere. I'm Billy Dukes for Taste of Country. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing.
Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the whole beast milking welfare. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground, 'cause all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down.